All right, so for today's episode, we have a good friend of mine, a person that I've been around in Yu-Gi-Oh with because of locals mainly, and just someone that I consider a good friend in the in the card game in general, but also just just fellow Yu-Gi-Oh player that I like talking to, Zade Slater. He is part. He has his own YouTube channel, and he is here today to conduct a small interview about why he is so garbage at Yu-Gi-Oh.
I was about to say thank you for the beautiful introduction up until that point.
uh, but I mean, you can't deny that that's there's some truth there. Maybe not the bad at Yu-Gi-Oh part. Maybe.
everything else.
Yeah.
But I'm the best at Yu-Gi-Oh! The world's ever known.
Give or take. But anyway, thank you for being here with me today, Zaid.
Thank you for having me. I've been excited to get into this.
Yeah, it's been exciting on my end too. I'm hoping whenever everything gets, a little more comfortable with everything here that I'd be able to do it for, people outside of my local range. But in general, it's just good to be able to talk with someone and get into everything with Yu-Gi-Oh and everything that's been going on currently and just in general. So we'll get into it here. First thing starting out, typical interview type thing. Just tell me about yourself within like Yu-Gi-Oh in general, or and how you got into the card game, how you see the card game now, and just some general stuff.
Alrighty, I'll start with my brief little history of it. I'm Zade Slater, as you guys heard from his intro, and I originally started Yu-Gi-Oh when I was a little kid. I don't remember the exact age. One of my first memories was actually seeing the Yu-Gi-Oh movie and getting like the card. I believe it was like the rare metal dragon or something that you got. And I went with my grandpa, and he didn't play Yu-Gi-Oh, so he gave me his card too. So that was like kind of the start of my collecting Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And I just played like how kids do, where they don't know the rules or anything, up until like fourth grade, I think, or fifth grade. In fifth grade, I started playing with the fourth graders because they played, and I had to learn the rules and start building like actual decks. Around there, I built a fiend deck around this monster that I believe he gained 100 attack for every fiend in your graveyard. I don't know if you know the name of that monster. I have no idea to this day what it was, but that was like my first like themed deck. And then I took a break for a while, and then Zach Spitzer got me into it. We started hanging out a lot, and like it was either seventh or eighth grade, and I think it was eighth grade when he got me into playing Yu-Gi-Oh again. And he eventually took me to my first locals, which was actually Neverland Games when it was in Waynesboro, and that was during Dragon Ruler format, I believe, like 2013, back when the rulers were at three.
Dear
And my first
God.
like deck there, huh?
I was saying, dear God, that sounds horrible.
I played that deck on Dueling Book or Dueling Network at the time, and I loved it. It wasn't that fun to play at locals because I didn't have the cards. They were thousands of dollars, and I just got pooped on. But playing the deck online was so much fun. But that format, the first like locals or two, I borrowed an Exodia deck from him, and then eventually he made me a Battling Boxer deck, and that was like my introduction to competitive Yu-Gi-Oh was Battling Boxer. The first time I went 3-2 at locals and got a positive record was with the Exodia deck, though. And then I think around that time I was just like playing Battle and Boxer and stuff. And when I got like good at Yu-Gi-Oh per se was like around Hat format, where I played this really weird Gadget Trap Trick hand deck, and that was like the first deck that I played that was semi-competent and had real cards. And the reason I started to have real cards, I think I was like 14 or 15 at the time. So before this, I didn't have money, but I started stealing packs from Walmart and then selling the cards at locals to get money to start being able to flip cards to make decks.
God, what a
And
fraud.
so It's a little bit of a shady pass, but what do you expect a 15-year-old that can't get a job to do but really wants to be good at Yu-Gi-Oh, you know? You work with what you got. And so then I made decks, and from there, I think I just kept playing stuff like that until Necros came out, and that's when I got my first regional top 8. I played Necros when Bria was at 3, but it was about to get hit to 2, so I only picked up 2, and the regional was like the weekend before the ban list was in effect. So I just played like 2 Brio when it was at 3 and got 6th place. And from there, uh, I don't remember what I played directly after that. When the Dino structure deck came out, I played Dino, and I think that's when I got my second regional top 8. Everyone was playing going first builds using like Denglong and stuff, and I played a going second build because Dark Hole was at 2 at the time, I believe, and Kaiju Slumber was at 3. So I played all those. I played a Kaiju Engine, I played Regeki, and I would just like play 3 of each baby, and if I didn't open Overraptor going second, I would just set a baby, and then activate Dark Hole or the Slumber, nuke their board in my baby, and it was Zodiac format, so people were just putting up like a Trident. And so I was able to like trade very well with a Dark Hole and a baby, and that got me my next top 8. And then I top 8'd ABC with ABC once, back when like links were fresh with like I think we only had like Decode Talker and the Proxy Dragon and stuff. But
Was it pre the first set, or was it like the first structure deck?
I don't remember, to be honest. I just remember that the only ones that I played were Decode Talker and the Proxy Dragon. I could pull up the list. I have the list saved on my dueling book somewhere actually. But that was like the last time I top 8'd a regional, I believe. Lots of like invites in between. Played at a couple Nats, never did too well, and I never really played YCSs because I was always vending them. And that's basically my history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, I play on Dueling Book a lot and Master Duel, and on both of them, I play a 60 card Thunder Dragon, like Dragon Link mesh. That's really fun on both games, honestly.
Yeah, it seems pretty chaotic on either of them. I'm surprised you didn't mention your favorite normal summon of the game.
Oh yeah, I didn't top 8 with Satella Knight, but I did get my first invite with that deck. And my deck was innovative as hell too. I was playing Max C was allowed back then. I think it might have been at 1, I don't remember. But if I went first, I was playing Reckless Greed and Upstart Goblin at 3, so that my opening play could be a Lavolve All Chain, use its effect to put Max C to the top of the deck if I open one of those draw cards, and then draw into it. And then I was also playing, you played 3 Call the Haunted already, but I was playing Icarus Attack and Zephyros, so that if I didn't have the draw cards, but I had the Icarus Attack, I could either make a Castel to make it a Wing Beast to be a target for Icarus, or I could make the, what's it called? Lavolval Chain, sending the Zephyros, which would then later on be able to recycle a Fiendish or a Call the Haunted, and would also give me the Wing Beast, the Wing Beast for the Icarus. And Icarus was real spicy, because going second, or like if you went first, you set it, you don't do anything with it. On your next turn, if you're against Shadal, you make Castel spin their fusion, and then if they have an out to it, you could chain the Icarus, tribute pop 2, and force Castel to go through. Oh, that was such a fun event. But yeah, I love Teller Knight too. I could go on for days about that deck.
Yeah, it sounds pretty interesting. Honestly, I would have loved to. Honestly, I would have loved to have been around in those. I can't. They're not that old for format wise, but like those kind of formats, because I'm relatively newer in terms of like being in the like competitive scene or whatever you want to call it. So like not so getting into those specific formats, like where you had like Statellar Knight running around, like BA was first introduced and all that stuff was going on, like Necros, stuff like that. Just sounds so much fun.
They were really good formats. Duelist Alliance really shook the game up a lot and added archetypes that a lot of them are still insane to this day, like Shadol and BA. Those decks are still competitively viable. Teller Knight, not so much. They kind of got outclassed, but also Yang Zing. I remember when that set came out, people were thinking the big 3 would be Yang Zing, Teller Knight, and Shadol. and everyone just overlooked BA.
Yeah,
Everyone thought BA was bad, and it ended up being like the longest reigning deck from that set.
imagine saying that. Imagine saying that like in today's day and age. Just
That
like,
BA is a bad deck.
yeah,
They're crazy. Hindsight's 2020 though.
yeah. You just sit there. You're just like, yeah, Dante Loop Seer. That's not too good. That's okay.
+2 every turn, and then if you mill good off the Dante, plus more.
Yeah.
What a crazy, crazy deck, and a good time. That's when I first like started really going into regionals and stuff. Was Duelist Alliance format.
It sounds pretty crazy. It sounds like you had a wild ride through everything. Honestly.
I have got to see a lot of wonderful formats. There's a lot that I missed, but nowadays I get to go back and play them, so it's not too bad having missed them.
Yeah, definitely. There definitely some. There's definitely a lot of fan favorites there. I know a lot of people. Like obviously, we just talked about Duelist Alliance format, but a lot of people clamor around Hat as well. That's one I've.
That was a really good format too.
Yeah, I kind of wish that's one format I kind of wish I could have played because it sounds really. I don't know like how like back and forth it was because obviously I never played it, but it seems like it was at least somewhat interesting.
There was a really cool variety of decks, in my opinion, at that time. Like, you had grindy decks like the Hand Artifact Trap Trick deck that the longer the duel progressed, the better position they were in. There was a lot of like skillful interactions that would go on with like each of their trap cards. And then there were also big combo decks. Like a lot of the decks Hoban innovated were huge combo decks. Like he had a really, really sweet Sylvan list that I like going back and playing. There was also like mythic rulers that would play Curry Bandit and Skill Drain, and they would be a slow start, but then they would like amass a lot of advantage on turns 2 and 3, or they could just open Soul Charge and kill you, and with like an almost FTK like board. There was a lot of degenerate stuff too, just like there is in normal Yu-Gi-Oh, where occasionally someone would have start a Spark Dragon Vanity's Emptiness, and you would just concede the game. But that's Yu-Gi-Oh. Some of the games are quick, some of them are really skillful, and some of them are in between. It was a nice format though.
Yeah, that's something like that is like I think I've told you that before about Edison format specifically. Like I love that format so much, but like the only thing I hate about it so much is Royal Oppression.
Yeah, that card is very degen, and it feels really bad to lose to it sometimes, but it's banned now, so we don't got to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, luckily that's what they need to do with Imperial Order right now. But Konami's weird. But uh, so let me see some other stuff here that I put down. So in general, what would you say throughout all that time were some positive things and some negative things that you've seen just in Yu-Gi-Oh in general, but maybe also at those specific points in
In
time?
regards to general.
Hmm?
So, like, uh, do you mean negative things as in like cards I haven't liked in the game, or like negative and positive things throughout my life involving Yu-Gi-Oh, or am I
Um,
looking too deep into the question?
um, well, just within the game, within like how you've seen Yu-Gi-Oh, like people that you've seen within Yu-Gi-Oh, like decks, cards, what anything specifically revolving around the game and your interaction within it.
All right, that let me think of how to start, honestly. Well, for a start, Yu-Gi-Oh has been almost nothing but immensely beneficial for me. Like, I have loved almost every minute within this game, and in a million aspects too. Like, just looking at the game itself, I think it's like a very, very fun and attention requiring game with like very high skill cap, and it's just like so exciting. As like a kid with ADHD in high school, a lot of things are hard to really keep you focused, and especially keep you sitting still and focused. And Yu-Gi-Oh is one thing that I could sit still and play for 12 hours straight and have the best time of my life and have no idea how long it has even been. And so in that aspect, I've absolutely like adored this game. It is next to concerts. Concerts and Yu-Gi-Oh are tied for my favorite things to do. It's really hard for me to pick between them. And then it also like has had very big impacts on my life in general. Like since I was like 15, 16, all I've done to generate income really has been Yu-Gi-Oh! Whether it's vending or now creating content. I'm not making money off content yet, but once I am, like that becomes another avenue where Yu-Gi-Oh! Just kind of is like the center of my life. It's what I do for the majority of my time, every day, month, year. And I've also, like you mentioned in the beginning, how we met each other through it. I've met a million other people too, like good friends everywhere I go. I could go to an event in like Texas and bump into people I haven't seen in years, and it feels like it hasn't been that long because you build a lot of solid relationships that are funded like right around the game, and it's amazing. I love it. I love everything this game has to offer. One downside to it though, a lot of people but I think this is in everything, not just Yu-Gi-Oh. A lot of people are outcome oriented in the small and like in the small scheme of things and not in the grand scheme of things. And so instead of like acknowledging that there's a percentage of games that no matter how good of a player you are, you're going to lose, people will kind of think that like every win is almost owed to them. And instead of being like reflecting on the loss or just accepting it for what it is, like, okay, maybe that game I did get sacked, but that's okay. I acknowledge that sometimes that happens. There are players that will get absurdly salty, and that's one of the things that is negative about the game is dealing with salty players because at any level event, it can really kill your vibe and almost like ruin the entire day if you let it.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I'm not saying names because I'm pretty sure like almost anyone at our locals has probably gone through that at some point in time, and I give some credit here and there. You know, people go through stuff day to day. There's certain things that happen that might be reflective of they had like a bad day at work, and then they're coming to locals. They're not doing too well, and they maybe get a little bit off put by it. I can sometimes understand that, but you
Yeah,
need
maybe they got fired and then I Mystic Mind them an hour later.
yeah, that's like getting fired from two jobs instead of one. Like, but in general, yeah, just salty players that like you know it's, the ones that I hate all the time. I kind of we me and my friend group like always joke around about it, but it's like, oh, I guess you just opened the cards you needed. Like people like that also kind of annoy me a lot of the times because it's like, I mean, I have like a high percentage to open some cards in my deck if I have like 12 rotas or like something like that.
There's a Billy Break 60 card Infernoid deck profile that I think of every time someone says something like that because he was specifically talking about how players would do that to him the entire event. Like I think Max C was at one at the time, and he was saying how if he Max C'd someone, they'd be like, "Wow, you really drew the Max C in a 60 card deck. Wow, you really drew the grass is greener in a 60 card deck. Wow, you drew the left arm offering in a 60 card deck." And he's like, "Yeah, there's a low chance I draw this card, but when you look at all the good cards I play in my 60 card deck, about 45 of them are good. The chance of me drawing one out of the 45 cards is pretty high. Like it's insane. I think that's again like a macro thinking kind of thing where they're just like, oh, he drew the one of that's awful, and I'm just gonna lose to it. Instead of, well, if I didn't draw that, I was gonna draw a different card. What if that card beat you? What are you gonna say you lost to that too? If I didn't draw the Maxi, I might have drawn the Ash. If I didn't draw the Ash, I might have drawn the Grass. If I didn't draw the Grass, maybe I drew the Imperial Order. Whatever card fill in the blank that you could have lost to in that scenario, I could have drawn that too. And it's kind of like it makes you feel shitty as a person when you're playing against these people because it's like, damn, I won. You might not think that was hard for me, but I had to work for this win. I had to build the deck. I had to show up to the event. I had to play 3 rounds before this. I had to stay mentally focused for this, and you're gonna belittle me because I drew a card you don't like. Like, come on, it's rough. It's rough.
Yeah, I definitely know that experience as well, and it's just that kind of thing just gets rough to you. Like I try to like I'll admit I've gotten like irritated at specific game states and stuff before, but it's more so like if I'm like I get mad at myself for misplaying, and then and then like in I don't get mad at like the player the or like what they're playing or anything. I just kind of get mad at like the game state itself. It's like, oh, this is just unwinnable. What the heck am I supposed to do? Kind of thing.
I used to do that sometimes. I think I've pretty much broken out of the habit though, because the way I look at it, honestly, one thing that helped me with it was boxing, to be honest. Where in boxing, right, if you're sparring and you get mad because the other guy is winning, you're gonna continue to lose. Like if I get upset over this dude hitting me with 3 jabs in a row, and I just kind of like lose focus, and I'm in my head and I'm belittling myself, he's gonna hit me again, and I'm not gonna see it coming. And then he's gonna hit me with the right cross, and next thing I know, I'm on the ground. And that's kind of applicable in Yu-Gi-Oh, where like, yeah, maybe you lost, maybe the guy reduced your life points to 0, but if you sit there and you dwell on that in a negative way, then that's going to impact the next game you play. And then you're going to do that game, and then you're going to know yourself in your head as a loser, because, like, that's the kind of negative self-talk you're having right there. But if you were to just acknowledge it's a game, it's okay to lose, and I should be happy you lose. Like, your opponent played well, be like, admire their performance. And I feel like doing stuff like that, just lower your expectations for yourself, but also acknowledge that other people, it's sometimes their night. In fighting, you never are guaranteed to win. You can be the better fighter 10-1, but it only takes one punch. It only takes one Imperial Order, and you could lose the game, but that's not reflective of who you are or the work you've put in. There's always next week. That's kind of how I try to look at it nowadays to keep my head up when I'm playing.
Yeah, that's that's a good way to put it. And I've been that's like it's been something like here and there. It's only like in some specific instances for me specifically, but I do try to keep a pot like if I can't be positive about it, at least try to keep a neutral mindset about it. Just like, it's not my fault, it's not my opponent's fault. It's just kind of how the game is. It's Konami's fault.
You can always blame Overseer Konami.
Yeah, you can blame them. You can blame Japanese people for weeaboo stuff. However you want to word it, but that leads me into one thing I was gonna ask you in regards to games in general. So when we already kind of went over losses, but how would you say the best way, not the best way, how do you specifically, like, when you say you go into a game and, like, say you misplay really big, like 1 or 2 times, or, a misplay that costs you the game or whatever it is, like, how do you specifically go from that to finding a way to improve towards the next games?
So, to start with that, say I make a misplay, right? And maybe I don't know yet that it's monumental, or maybe I think it is. One of the big things to me in the game is that if we're playing and maybe I play a spell into the imperm column, and I'm like, wow, that just set me back a bunch. In that specific moment, I think it's really important to kind of forget the past. Do not dwell on the past at all. That play that happened a second ago, that didn't happen. You have to look at the game state for exactly what it is right now and think, how can I win from here? And then later on reflect and be like, man, I shouldn't have done that. What did I learn from that? Or maybe it's not so simple of a misplay as playing into the imperm column, but like a long, intricate combo that you hadn't even ever done before and you didn't know, and maybe you feel like you made a couple missteps. And in the moment, forget that and be like, I'll check that later, and then play from where the game currently is, because it's never over till your life's at 0. And it's kind of like life in a sense, where if something shitty happened last year that you can't go back and fix, and you're constantly thinking about that thing, you're going to prevent yourself from getting forward now in this exact moment in time. And so during the game, that's how I'll think about it. And then a way that I like to improve post-game is to ask my opponent, honestly. I'll be very clear, like, where do you think I messed up? If I did this, do you think I won? If I did this, do you think I won? Did you have this? Do you think I should have played around this? I like to communicate a lot post-match, like at locals, at regionals, at any event I attend, even on Dueling Book. And then one of the last things is in regards to the first 2 things I said, those 2 points, if you combine them using Dueling Book and the replay feature, you can oftentimes see that, like, and I found this through making content. I would play a match, and in the moment, I would like feel really bad about a play that I made. Like, I think I could have played this better, but I'll think to myself, just push through, do what you can right now to still win the game. And then I'll go through, watch the replays, commentate for a YouTube video, and I'll notice, and I'll say out loud, I think at this point I should have made this play. This is why I think that. And then I'll go through the replay, and oftentimes I find that as I learn more information about their hand, the play I thought was correct wasn't even correct. Like, I made the right play, and I thought I made the wrong play. And if I would have dwelled on what I perceived to be an error, I never would have got to the point where it turned into a non-error. And so that's a big thing, being able to go back and watch your games. If you're not playing on Dueling Book, record them. Like, get a camera out, even if you're not making content, and watch back. Athletes do it in every sport. They watch film on themselves, on their opponents, and Yu-Gi-Oh, while it's not a physical sport, it's still a very mentally inducive game, and if you can document what you do and go back, you can improve exponentially faster than just like running more and more games. At least in my opinion.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with all of that, honestly. And that whole aspect of like what you were mentioning, like in the moment type of play versus like post match type of play. Like, I think personally that kind of gets to a lot of people within the game, probably within any card game, honestly, because there's I know for me specifically, when it comes to like playing out a game, I sometimes in the moment I either focus on like, okay, my opponent my I either like over focus or like I under focus. Wherein, like, if I over focus, it's like, okay, my opponent has literally every card possible to win the game at this current instance and this current point in time. Or I under focus, where it's like, oh, my opponent, they only have this like one specific interaction, and then they like come from behind because it's like, oh, I didn't realize this one specific thing that came out of the woodworks. So I think,
Almost like a hand trap. You're like, they have Appaloosa, they have Revolt. That's all I got to play through. You play through it and you get asked, and you're like, oh, I lost.
yeah, it sometimes it's hard in some specific game states because it's like, oh, if they have another interaction, I can't really do anything, and then they have that one interaction, so it's like, I mean, what are you gonna do? But there's I know definitely there's some instances where it's like I forgot like they had this card in graveyard specifically, or I didn't read like an effect of something fully properly, and it's like, oh, they maybe it's not they win in that instance, but it's like, oh, they got pushed so far ahead because I like didn't take the time to like fully read everything.
In those moments, though, just I guess try to remember that even if you lose that game, like you overall, in the grand scheme of things, are the winner because you've gained more knowledge. Like you gain more from a loss than you do a win.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think that whole mindset is, I think, something like card game players in general, but I would also definitely I would probably put it way more specifically on Yu-Gi-Oh for for like our specific case, because I it probably obviously happens to like every other card game as well, but in Yu-Gi-Oh it's like there's so many things that like go on within like one singular turn sometimes, and within those type of games, it's like, sometimes it's just hard to focus on everything, so it's like you can't really like go in there and just like expect to like take over, just expect to like be a perfect like AI, and it's like, oh, my opponent has has 5 cards in hand, so like this is the mathematical possibility that they open like 3 hand traps, 2 hand traps, a starter, blah 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 blah. You there's so many different things that you have to try to keep up with in general, but you know sometimes it just takes like understanding where like good plays are, good like interactions that you can have are, and just like finding, where you're maybe not excelling at within specific interactions, or maybe even just in a specific deck or play style that you're doing.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like there really is a lot that goes into a Yu-Gi-Oh game, and you can't dwell on any one little piece of it.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
The Especially like at big events, like the environment's just distracting. Not even in like a big event, but at locals, like you're surrounded by friends, and if you lose a game because one of your buddies was next to you and was doing a crazy combo and you were looking over at that, not the game, it's okay to have lost that game. Like you got to enjoy a positive experience with your friends, and that's like that should be enough. But for a lot of people, it tends to not be.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird dichotomy because I know um, some people I've talked to specifically, they're like, well, I have a competitive mindset, and it's like it's very hard for me to like take a loss sometimes, and it's like I
I
know,
don't think that's a competitive mindset. I think that's a loser's mindset, to be honest.
yeah,
I think that a competitive person, they don't set out to win, they set out to compete. And I think to compete, at least by my definition, would be to try your best and to accumulate the most amount of knowledge that you can. And that doesn't necessarily mean win. If your objective is purely to win, then it seems more ego driven than competitively driven.
yeah,
Like to
that's
me, in fighting again, for an example, like for an analogy, if you're a fighter that truly loves competition, you're competitive, and you have the most competitive mindset, you want to fight the best of the best. You want to have the hardest, most grueling matches you can have. But if you're a fighter that wants to win, you're going to pick the easiest opponents for the biggest paycheck. And you're going to make a mockery of them. You're going to collect your money and go home. And that's not a competitive fighter. The competitive fighter is the guy that week after week, month after month is putting himself against the baddest guys he can on the planet. And it's the same to me in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like if you're competitive, you're okay with losing because that means you're going to learn how to compete better in the future. You're going to study film on that. You're going to like think about where you messed up and you're going to get better after it because you're competitive. But if you're going to blame everyone in the universe except yourself for your loss, you're not a competitor. You're someone that wants to win for some reason. You probably have self-esteem problems or something. You need this win to make you happy. And I don't mean to shit on anybody if these are the ways you think. Like, do you? But I don't think it makes you a true competitor if you're not okay with loss.
yeah. I can agree on that honestly. Like, I was gonna say that a competitor, like when you were saying a competitor is someone that wants to like acquire knowledge and everything. I was gonna also chime in and say that a competitor isn't someone that necessarily wants to win. They want to succeed, and succeeding isn't necessarily just winning. You know, it's doing other things that can lead to winning, obviously, but you have to do other things in different aspects in order to actually succeed through something.
To succeed is to like play your best, and I guess is how I would define it. Like to do the best that you possibly can with you in the current moment, with your current information and your current state of mind. Do the best that you can possibly do, and if you lose, that doesn't make you bad. You did the best you could, and now next time you'll be able to do better.
Yeah, definitely. I did. Uh, so trying to get to something else here. Um, I did want to go over since everyone's in the hype and craze of our new game that we have presented to us, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Um,
Cool, baby. I'm excited to talk about this one.
so, how far are you in the ranked ladder right now?
On Plat 2, 3 wins away from Plat 1.
Nice. I'm like, what is it? I'm silver two, and I only have like a couple days to get up all the way to plat. It's kind of scary.
Why do you only have a couple days? What do you mean?
There's like I don't know specifically what they're doing. I think the ranked ladder is gonna reset in like a few days. I
It
don't know.
shouldn't. It says that the rank ladder is staying for like 60 something days. I know the server's going under maintenance, though. Hopefully, it's not a rollback on ranked. I'd be really upset.
Yeah, hopefully, hope. But they do that for Duel Links. I really, it's very stupid, but you know, I guess that's just the way they have to
Oh,
do it to keep their
they
players
usually when
interested.
they reset Duel Links, it's like planned and you know it's coming. Whereas if you log into Master Duel right now, it says that there's about 60 something days left in the competitive season. I believe, like, don't quote me on it, but I think that's the case.
I think it was 60. I know there's like a 60-day limit for like the gold pass or something. Either way, um, I've um, what's your overall thoughts on like ev- uh, I know it's probably like very broad to say everything, but just like general thoughts and opinions on just how the game is right now.
I honestly, at first, I was thinking the way everyone for the most part was thinking, like, or every competitive player was thinking, this isn't the TCG format. Best of one, what the hell? Card pool that we shouldn't have. Sword Soul's not on here. But when you like, if you try to like compare it to something like Dueling Book, I think it's complete garbage. It like Dueling Book for a competitive player to practice is leagues ahead of Master Duel. But if you, but comparison is the thief of joy. If you take Master Duel in a vacuum for what it is, I think it's fucking awesome. I get to play. It's like a weird mix of nostalgia for me, but also like brand new because I have grass and snow at 3, for example. Last time I got to play those was back when I was playing Infernoid. So it reminds me of those times, but I'm also playing them in a Chaos Dragon Link deck with Thunder Dragon that's very similar to the list I'm currently playing on Dueling Book, except I have grass and snow and stuff like that, and I have a Thunder Dragon Colossus. So it's like a back to your roots kind of game for me, but also a brand new, fun, innovative format. And the best of one is also really cool because it makes it so you can't just like main deck certain cards and you can't side deck certain blowouts, and you have to be prepared for the back row decks in your main, but also for the combo decks in your main. And it's just a really, really interesting format, and I hope they don't fold and change it because competitive players are complaining. Because I feel as if there's a lot more casuals playing, and that they would probably be upset if all their favorite cards get banned and it gets switched to TCG. I'll be upset if that happens because, like, if I want to play TCG, I'll play Dueling Book. Like I said, it's infinitely better. Even if they fix everything I just said, Dueling Book is still better. But so in that aspect, I love it. There's a couple things that kind of stink. Like I don't think the ranking systems go high enough. I am Platinum 2, about to hit Platinum 1. Platinum 1 is the highest rank in the game, and I'm still playing against absolute trash cans. Most of my games, my opponents, I make my board, they scoop, or I make my board, they hand trap me once, they scoop. They use a hand trap in a terrible spot, they scoop. Like, it's really bad. The only games I really lose are games where I get max seed, and instead of being like a smart player and making a subpar board and giving them 1 to 2 cards, I don't care because I know I'm about to win 10 games for free, so I just combo through max seed. Like, I had a game where the guy had 13 cards left in deck. He drew like almost everything, and I made a board that I honestly don't think he could have broken. But it took me so long to make the board that I only had 17 seconds left on his turn, and then I just timed out. Which that's a big issue to me. If you're playing combo, you get really punished. I think there should be like a system where you either have less time overall, but every time you complete an action, you get a couple seconds added, so that instead of having one like overall pool of time, you have enough time to think, but then you get a rewarded time for every action to incentivize you continuously playing without stopping, or make it so you have this pool of time, but you get more at the passing of every turn and not just on the passing to you. Because if it takes me a couple minutes to build my board, and then I have 30 seconds left to use my interruptions, and I'm playing Fairy Tale Snow, which asks me if I want to chain it to every single card activated, my 30 seconds runs out, and then I just lose even though I was in an unlosable position, and that hurts my heart. It hurts.
Yeah, I haven't played it enough to like see um to see that specifically. Does the timer go down like from the like 500 seconds on your side like on both turns?
So yeah, it'll start on 480 on your turn. If your turn's 0, and then it'll go down on your turn as normal. When you pass to your opponent, you have the same timer. And so if you were down to 10 seconds on your turn, you pass to them, you have 10 seconds to use your interruptions on their turn.
Oh, that's
And
crazy.
so, yeah, it's insane. So you basically have to turn the timer to off, or to your auto response to off, so that you don't get asked if you want to respond with a card. But then if they play a card you want to respond to, your thing's on off. You can't respond. So it's basically like your interruptions do nothing. They're just there to make your opponent think you can use them because they don't know you're about to run out of time. And you'll get more time when your turn comes around, which typically is enough time. Like if I've got 60 seconds left on my turn, when my turn comes around, it'll put me close to 200 seconds, which it's fine. I'm probably going to kill them. I'm not going to need the extra time for interrupts on their turn. But it's rough. But I get why it's in place. I just think it could be done better because sometimes I'll play against someone that'll spend 60 seconds thinking about putting one card down. And it's just like, come on, dude. And I'm glad they get punished, but when I make a lot of plays very quickly and I get punished for it, it hurts.
Yeah, that's understandable. That definitely sounds like something they can improve upon in general. And to go back to like the first thing you were talking about with TCG and stuff, honestly, one thing that I'm hoping for out of it is that it has like separate format and like alternate format, a, like toggle systems that you can play to if you want to play in like either a casual server or a ranked server, or however they're gonna do it. Like even if it's only in a ranked server for some reason, like where with everything, like being able to like, okay, I want to play in this TCG format, I want to play in the OCG format, I want to play like this retro format that they added to the game, I want to do this, that, and the other.
What would you call the format they have right now, though? Because it's not really OCG or TCG. It's like an OCG list, but it was an old list and with cards that weren't available when that list was in place. So where would like the current list fall into that split system?
I guess they could. I mean, if they just wanted to be simple about it, they could like if we only had like three options for it, I guess they could go TCG, OCG, and then like quote unquote master duel format, whatever they want to call it, standard, or whatever they want to say it is. You know, just that option where we have like this current card pool, like that we have right now in Master Duel, where like these specific things are banned, these things are one, all this other stuff. I don't know necessarily if that would be the way they go though, because then they have to like keep up with TCG. Well, like North American would have to keep up with TCG regular format stuff and going on in there. They'd also have to keep up with Master Duel going on and stuff, like just implementing stuff from like new sets and whatever they're doing with it. But then they also have to keep up with Master Duel format, and then they can potentially if the card pool is different enough, they would have to like address not only the stuff like in regular TCG, but then they would have to like look at the Master Duel format, and it's like, okay, what the heck do we address here? I mean, we have the problems in the TCG, but you know, like say for example, it's like, just random example. It's like, oh, Invoke Shaddoll in Master Duel is just like tearing up everything. You know, we have to like address it, but then in the TCG, it's like Invoke Shaddoll is like somehow tier 4 now for some ungodly reason. It's like from there, it's just like, I mean, what? I mean, I don't know if they'd necessarily do it like that, but if they wanted to just like put it out like in a like do the like bare minimum, like smallest amount of work possible, I think that's like what they could do with it.
I think it could be honestly pretty cool if they did. I don't know what they'll do though. The main thing that I want them to put their energy into implementing, honestly, is more solo stuff to do, kind of like how Duel Links is, where there's worlds with challenges and you earn gems through doing those challenges. Because I've been playing not nonstop, because a new RuneScape game mode came out called like Shattered Leagues or something the same day, and it lasts for 45 days and then goes away. So I've been playing that way more. But as I start to get burnt out towards the later points of the day of that, I play the Master Duels for a couple hours. So I've been playing a couple hours a day every day, and I'm already out of things to do to earn gems. Like I maybe can get 1,000 gems a day, and that's like slowly getting worse as it progresses. Like I'm barely getting anything, and I'm really hoping when the servers are like getting maintenance on whatever time it said that's going to be, I'm hoping that's what they're doing is addressing that and giving us more events or something to do, more challenges, anything. I if it makes you play a lot too, I'd be fine. Cause like I get they need to make their money, they want you to spend money on the game, but there should also be a way that if I'm continuously playing your game, that I will get rewarded in some way, shape, or form, just to keep me going. And then the more time I have invested, the more likely I am to like register. Like, hey, okay, it's okay to spend some money here every now and then. You're playing for 100 hours.
Yeah, that's I'm actually really glad that you mentioned the solo mode because, well, to talk about your one thing that you were talking about with events and stuff, real quick, they did. I forget specifically where it was, but there was some kind of announcement that said that events are coming in the future, and I think it's on the Master Duel. I think it's on Master Duel itself specifically. I don't remember specifically where or anything, but I'm that's one thing like personally that I really like is the solo mode, specifically the World Chalice story. I would say I'm a little more biased towards because that one's like
I just started doing that one actually.
yeah, that one's like my favorite, like besides the current lore that we have going on in the card game, which is the Albaz stuff. Like that's one of my favorite like overall like lore things. I know a lot of people like the like dual terminal stuff where it's like um Gustos, Shaddolls, Cleave Forts, like ice barriers, like all that kind of stuff. But I really like the setup with the World Chalice lore and everything. It's kind of sad what kind of a sad story what happens in the middle of everything, but you know it is what it is.
Lucky that's the one you like too, because that one's like really long. I'm assuming that's because there's a lot more detail in it. I'll be
Yeah,
honest, I don't watch it for the lore. I skip through everything I can. I just play the duels and try to get the rewards. So I don't know much about it. But it is cool how they implement it in a way where like I just want the rewards and they make it so I can skip cutscenes and I can play as quick as I can for the rewards. And you're interested in the lore, and now you have like a Konami official place to go and indulge in the lore during a game and get rewarded for it. And that's really sick.
yeah, and that's one thing that some people have been complaining about, where it's like the lore just doesn't seem that important because it's like, oh, you can just like press the A button and it's like, oh, cool, you press the A button like 5 times, here's 100 gems, something like that. But I would say in general, even like I would say that's probably the best way they could have implemented it, because like you don't want to force people to go through that if they don't want to like listen to it or uh, listen to it. It's literally only text, but
Yeah, if you don't want to read it.
yeah, if
We're
it's
Yu-Gi-Oh players. We don't know how to read.
yeah, exactly. Imagine if it just had like card text up there instead of like the lore stuff that was going on. But
I have no idea what's going on still. They put
exactly.
Servant of Endymion's text up there to be, oh.
Or Master of Endymion.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
The entire lore, the entire like Endymion lore is just like him trying to figure out his own card text and how it resolves.
Even he can't read that small font.
uh, but yeah, like I love all that stuff in general. But I also love just like I think the biggest thing for me as well is like the aesthetic of everything, because like when you go into the duel, I think that's like one thing that kind of like takes away from like takes away from like online servers that are free, but like those people have to code everything and do all that kind of stuff. Like for them it's excuse me, for them it's way harder to do like coding for just like, you know, specific summoning animations and all this other like crazy stuff that Konami has implemented into this game, that because
Mhm.
that you know, Konami can do that because they have the resources to, you know, big
They
budget
got a much bigger budget. Yeah.
big budget company and everything. And then like the person that like edited Dev Pro is probably like some random Asian kid that lives with his mother still, you know. Like, you know, it's a big difference there. It's like Yeah, that's another thing. Like, I'm just really glad that there's like, it's not like the biggest thing, but it's kind of cool that there's summoning animations, and then just like the aesthetic of like the feel that you can have. Like, you have a dual partner. Like, you can have like mine currently is that world chalice guard dragon. It's just a little cute boy, and then like
Little cute boy.
yeah, and then
I don't know what mine is. Mine's whatever the default one is. Rescue cat?
yeah, rescue rabbit.
Rabbit.
It's I love looking at the Sangan one too, because he's just so he's like the most least intimidating like fiend monster that you've ever seen.
But he searches powerful boys, so it's okay.
Yeah,
He searches intimidating cards.
yeah, he doesn't have to be intimidating. He searches tour guide.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I would say I also enjoy it. Just I also like enjoy a lot of things about it myself. I would say overall it's been decent right now. I just kind of want to see what happens like later on, like not too far into the future, maybe like 3 weeks from now, where everyone feels about it, because like everyone right now is just like extremely like grinding and like getting to platinum and like doing all the missions and doing everything like so quick and so fast, and like I think that's kind of also going to lead to burnout, unfortunately, and a lot of people are going to go from like, oh yeah, Master Duel is the greatest thing in the entire world, and then like 3 weeks or 2 weeks later they're going to be like, oh, this game sucks, I can't get any more gems, what the fuck's going on.
Hopefully, around that time is when they'll drop the ban list for the TCG.
Hopefully.
And then we can just go back to playing regular Yu-Gi-Oh, spend our money on grand creators, and then when we get burnt out of that, and we're in this ban list lore again in 3 months where they tell us you can have it by this day, maybe, if you're a good boy. And then, like, when we're doing that, we'll hop back to Master Duel, do whatever new events there are. But yeah, I could see burnout being an issue, even for me in, like, probably a week. I'm about to hit plat. I don't like doing the story mode because, like you said, you enjoy the lore. For me, it's simply like a thing for rewards, and they don't even give you enough gems for it. Like a lot of the time, you're just getting cards that are some of them are cool. Like if you do the World Chalice one, I noticed today you get a 3 Induk. That's a good card if you're making a budget Eldritch deck. You can turn your traps into Induk, and then you can link them for other links. But for me, that's not doing me any good, and so I got to play through this entire thing to maybe get 100 gems from one of them, and I don't want to. So after I max out on ranked, there's not much for me to do. The cool thing, though, is that I think the limitation of gems in the current moment it makes the meta perceived as way different than it will actually be as the format develops. I've noticed a lot of Eldritch and a lot of Striker. Those decks are very cheap to make. The cards that are expensive for the most part are staples. So if you're starting an account, those are the way to go. Like I almost regret not doing it, but my deck's so cool that I don't care. But like you make those, they're really cheap, they're really strong, they give you a lot of staples, and then as you get more staples and improve your collection, those decks improve. So you're seeing them in ranked a lot. But like Grass's greener decks are insanely expensive. Not only do you have to buy 20 additional cards for the main deck, most of the really crazy ones are SRs or Ultras. Like, I have my current list, and I have a Dream list saved. My Dream list doesn't play single rare. It's all super and higher.
Oh my
And
god.
that's very hard to to obtain all those cards. But as they give us more events, or as players like succumb to spending money, and as we like develop our collections and we're able to play more, I think we're gonna see some way more powerful decks than what people have going on right now. Like Eldritch and Striker are not the best decks by any far. They both play 40 cards. If
Oh
your deck is 40 cards, it's not that good to be right now.
yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. I think that it's like you said. I think there's kind of a stranglehold on everything right now, and I definitely think there's some crazy stuff that people just like new players are coming in. They probably don't know too much about everything, but also like players that are coming into it, maybe they haven't like experienced like know like everything intricate, so it's like they don't know everything specifically with the
Even
format.
like you said, you haven't played Grass is Greener before. So that you're not even like a new player. You've been playing for a few years, but grass is greener still before your time, and
Well,
that is like crazy.
no, grass. No, I played a little. Yeah, I played around grass. I think it was.
Oh, that's around when you got in? My bad.
Yeah, yeah. But regardless of that, going to the story, real quick. There's one annoying thing that I actually do dislike about it in general, and that is it's sort of a thing just in general with Master Duel, but the shuffling system feels god awful in the game. I will literally sit there and like in story mode, but also like in ranks sometimes with my deck. I will sit there and my like AI opponent, or specifically in the story mode, my AI opponent will open like god tier hand and like have the full setup of whatever the deck is, and then I will open like three useless monsters like and stuff that just doesn't do anything in the moment, and it's horrible for trying to complete those story missions because it's like you're sitting there, you're like playing like fucking. You're actually Karakuri was good to me throughout that story mode. That deck's insane. But like I sat there playing like a digital bug deck, and like my opponent had like like Inzector like digital bug stuff, and like I just lost because he's just like, oh, he opened normal summon Inzector, equip Dragonfly. That's pretty cool.
I kind of have had the exact opposite in some of the ones I've played, but I haven't played nearly as many, I'm assuming, because I've barely done the story mode. But most of the games, like, they'll set one past, and I'll just kill them, and I'm like, okay, give me my rewards.
Yeah, there's a I do like that they have it makes it kind of feel like weird, but there's like you can do it with the loner deck they give you, which is basically like the archetype deck, but you can also do it with like your standard deck that you have for whatever you have currently. Like I have Prank Kids right now as the primary deck that I'm playing.
That's a really good deck right now.
Yeah, and like I just like no problem through any of those games because like normal summon any Prank Kid beats like basically any like story deck that they win again.
For
Went up
sure.
against.
They don't have Ash either. You're good.
Exactly. But
I played Danger Grand Maju as mine for those so that I could just OTK going second every single time.
yeah, it makes it kind of difficult when you're trying to play like Prank Kids isn't really like combo, but still like you have to do so many implements just to well like do you want to activate this effect and like do all this stupid stuff to just like finish a game out and all kinds of stuff like that. Well, yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that's why I play Big Boom Smash because I activate three dangers and then I normal summon and they're done. So
yeah,
it's nice and quick for grinding through the story mode.
yeah, it's it's something. I think overall Master Duel the experience is going to be fun and it's going to be enjoyable in general. I know there's like negatives that we just talked about, and obviously there's still a lot more that a lot of people have already discussed. I think in general, it's just gonna be fun and it's gonna be an interesting way to see the game evolve. But
It's also having a really large reach. Like I was talking to Sage actually. You guys listening might not know Sage unless you've been following me for a while. Because back on my old channel, Famous Dex, he would do videos sometimes as Sage the intern, and I was texting him, and he said he has friends that we would have never expected to play Yu-Gi-Oh that heard that Master Duel came out and gave it a try and love it. And so like it's reaching a large audience. People that used to play Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid are seeing it and coming on. People that are competitive are giving it a try. It's reaching everyone under the sun. I've seen Facebook groups popping up for it that are already at like 30K people. And for comparison, I believe Zodiac Duelist, which is one of our biggest groups for like regular Yu-Gi-Oh, I think it's only at like 70 or 80K, right? Do you happen to know the stat of that off the top of your head?
I do not. But that honestly does sound pretty crazy.
And the fact that we've got multiple groups that are like 20 to 30K and the game's been out for barely any time. And if you scroll through those groups, there's a very large range of people from competitive to casual and everywhere in between. So it's just, I think it's good for the game. It's good for me as a player. It's given me like a fresh take on Yu-Gi-Oh. It's good for me as a content creator because I've been bored of Yu-Gi-Oh waiting for a ban list. I went 4 days without a video Master Duel came out, I made some videos. And it's also been good, like, people are blowing up off of it. I haven't had any big videos yet. I had one that was like 1.5K. But our boy Zach, shout out his channel, Nostalgio, he posted 3 videos that back to back to back got over 20,000 views. And his channel went from 400 subs to almost 800, seemingly overnight.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's definitely gonna be it's definitely gonna be probably one of the biggest impacts in general for Yu-Gi-Oh, like on the just like an overall basis, because I think that happened with the arena, like Magic the Gatherings thing, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But moving on into something else here.
Real quick, before we leave Master Duel, can I ask you a question on it?
Yeah, go ahead.
What are your thoughts on prank kids?
It feels okay. Like I said, the shuffling just like keeps screwing me over because I open like 5 prank kids every game. But like one prank kid.
Play 60 card.
If I had enough good cards, I would.
One day.
Yeah, one day. But might be going a little bit longer here if that's okay with you.
I'm fine. I'm having fun.
Okay. So I wanted to also, since you were talking about the ban list, that's also something I was gonna ask you and wanted to discuss about. In general, again, like all these other questions in general, what do you think is most important for Konami to address in this specific format?
So, my take in regards to that question in particular, I don't think there's anything that is that important that it needs to be hit. Like, they could give us a ban list that only unbanned cards, or they could say nothing's being touched, and I would be fine. The only thing I care about is knowing the list that we are going to play the next 3 months with. And I know there's cards that other people would love to see gone, and there's cards that I would like to see gone, but I don't think anything in the current game needs to go. We have a plethora of decks that are good. There's some sacky cards, but there's outs to them too, and you're not always losing to them. No deck is so powerful with it access to its sacky cards that it's a definitive best deck. And every event, there's different decks topping, so I don't think anything needs to be hit, but there are some cards that I would like to be hit, but if they don't, I'm not going to shed a tear.
Yeah, that's one thing that I honestly really like about the format, but it's also kind of it's weird because right now specifically it's like so like split like down the middle, because it's like, oh, there's so many like viable decks and strategies and nothing is like taking over the game like fully and completely. But then you look on the other side and it's just like, well, I mean, all these it's like there's so many like good things that you can play, but it's also like they lose so easily to just like so many different things sometimes, and it's just like those different things are things that people are like either already playing or like are teching for the format, or it's like side deck cards and stuff like that like people are just like playing because of this format, and it's just making it like really really weird. Just it's like I've kind of been struggling because like I don't want to like just play the same deck every week like in and out. I want to try to play a different deck here and there, but like
Have some fun, innovate.
yeah, it's just like, but it's like hard to find stuff sometimes because it's like I want to like, it's like I just want to sit here sometimes and I just want to like normal summon Alistair for like 6 weeks in a row, but it's just like that it just gets to the point where it's like I don't want to, I want to play something else, but like everything else is just like eh.
Yeah, as a player that up until Master Duel releasing, I was nonstop playing the Thunder Dragon Link deck online, 60 cards, and it is a deck that's very fun, absurdly powerful when it goes off, but it kind of falls into this issue where, like, if they Protos call Dark, you lost. If they Scythe and you don't have Droplet or Imperm or something, you lost. Like, if they Droll, you lose. If they Lancia, you lose. And it can be a little annoying at times, and it makes it something that those are the cards in particular that I think not Scythe. I'm weird on Scythe, but Protos and then the Harpy Trap that Bird Up plays. Those are the cards that I feel like really restrict a lot of the quote unquote rogue strategies that would be a lot more represented if they didn't exist.
Yeah, I think that's the big.
And
I think that's a big thing people are clamoring for. Like, I Protist to me is like weird because it's like it's the first time it's ever been used and like abused in a deck. So I think
but
that
it's insane in that deck. It's
yeah, it
so dumb. And it can only really be played in that deck because in every other deck it's not searchable.
exactly, and it's like, well, I mean, you could theoretically search it in like your kind of decks where it's like 60 card like wombo combo stuff,
How
but
do you search it in that?
you can chaos space it.
Oh, it's dark? Yeah, it's dark. So I guess like yeah, it could be searched with that card too. I didn't even think about that. Maybe I should play it.
Yeah,
There's
it's
also its counterpart I was thinking about trying because it's light dragon with 3,000 attack, and I already play Melody.
Yeah, that was the other weird thing with it because it's like if you ban Protos, then you have then like by proxy, like even though Escatos, that's the name of the other one, even though that one has not been used, you have to get rid of that one because if you're gonna get
Uh, I
like
don't know if you'd have to because it's not searchable and abusable in anything else really besides like the dragon deck. I think.
well, I would, at least to me in principle, like it would be kind of like it'd be like them banning rivalry and then not banning Gozen kind of thing.
I could see that happening though if rivalry was like a problem in the format and goes and wasn't. Even though the cards are they function similarly, like you could still hit one and not the other. Like you could hit Pot of Prosperity and not hit Extra Ever Desires kind of thing, where
Eh,
they're very similar in function, fulfill similar roles just for different decks.
I can understand that at least. I don't know, like but also the thing like with Protoss is just like it's like you said, it's like only one deck, can't really abuse it in anything else, but the one deck that uses it is just can make it absolutely absurd.
I think that's honestly why I want those two cards hit. And like I don't I'd rather Scythe stay than be hit, and I'd rather Dagda stay, with the reason being that any deck has access to that engine. And so if that engine exists within the game and every deck is playing it, then we're gonna main deck a lot of ways to out it, and it's not gonna be that big a deal. It's gonna get to the point where like it's you're committing all your resources to this play that's going to die to a droplet, so people are just going to like stop doing it in my opinion. Whereas Protos is a card and the Harpy's Trap is a card where I can't really tailor my main deck too much to beat these cards because only one deck has access to them, which means I'm going to have to commit a lot of space in the side deck. And then the cards that answer, like the Harpy Trap, for example, the cards that answer that are directly like opposite of cards that actually address that deck. So like I side in a red reboot or something to stop the trap. I'm just gonna lose to the board if they don't have the trap. My red reboot's just dead.
Exactly. It's like honestly, that card to me is just like extremely stupid because I don't know why they made it a Harpy trap card and they put like that it had a like specific thing with harpies and like searching harpies feather duster and all this other stuff. But they say if you control a winged beast monster, a wind wing beast monster, it's like literally every harpy monster in the game that has the name harpy in it is a winged beast monster. Well, actually, no. I can't. I can't. I lied. There's Harpy's pet dragon, and that is a dragon monster. I'm pretty sure. It would make sense. It would make sense if it was. If it's a winged beast, then that's very stupid. But regardless, like,
Harpy's pet wing beast.
but regardless of like the Harpy's pet dragon, any retrains that has, like, still like the if it should have just been a Harpies card. It's all I'm trying to
Even
say.
if it was though, it would just change the end board. They would just end on Harpy Conductor.
I guess so, but like I would rather
At least they'd have to do that though.
yeah, it's like and in that specific instance, I think for the in that specific instance for they would basically have to like some unless they had like other extension plays that they could do and stuff, they would kind of have to. In some instances, they would have to sacrifice the Smorg link, which makes
I think most often they're just going to be giving up the double Dragon Lord, unless you don't have full combo or you got hit by an interruption, then you'd be giving it up for the. Which is, you're right, it would still be a little less. It'd be a little easier to deal with, and they'd have less follow up because if they don't have the Simorg, they're not getting a summon on your end phase to kill you with.
yeah. I heard an argument from someone that said it's not in anyone's main deck, and that was like, okay.
I don't think that's like justification. Like, what does that mean? If Maxi was around and we didn't main it, we just sided it that the card would be cool to just stay around.
Exactly, bro. Like,
Side deck cards can be OP too. It means that games 2 and 3 you auto win if you see them.
like Pankratops, like it shouldn't be at 1. It was just in everyone's side deck, bro.
Yeah, what? Why would that card get hit? You only use it 2/3 of the game at most.
Exactly.
They should hit cards you use 100% of games.
Exactly. But yeah, those two I think are like the big things. What's your take? We basically addressed everything like floodgate wise. I think that's pretty important. What's your take on like Verte and the fusion cards? I know you've told me personally, but
Right now, if any of them get hit, I think it should probably be Anaconda. But the more I think about it, I don't really care if they get hit. Like, at first I thought they would hit them, but now if they don't, I'm fine with it. I like Anaconda kind of. DPE is really cool. You can play it in like any deck, and those are the power cards I like. The ones that you can either. I like cards that are archetype specific if they make the archetype like playable but not insane. Where if DPE was not generic and you only could play it in the hero deck, then it would put the deck it would make it very strong, but it wouldn't be over the top. It still loses to all the same things. It doesn't really fix many of the problems the deck has. It just gives it a little bit stronger of a board. And so if it were just for that deck, I'd be happy with the card around. And now that it's like a generic card, the fact that it's completely generic and can be played in any deck that can put 2 monsters on board, I'm kind of fine with because every deck can play it. Oh, if it's unfair, how's it unfair? We all have access to it readily, and it's not like the hardest card in the world to play around as you get used to it and start deck building around it. Like, a lot of decks have main or extra deck outs that they can put in that are very, very efficient at dealing with that card. And so if it sticks around, I would be happy. If it gets hit, I'd be happy. I'm fine no matter what, honestly. And Dragoon has done nothing since the card came out, so Dragoon, it can't be the problem, and Red Eyes Fusion can't be the problem, so kind of falls down to like Anaconda or Fusion Destiny, I guess.
yeah, that's honestly one of the more interesting things that I think I've seen with that specific like revolving around like Verte and good generic those two good generic like fusion engines. Like, people like highly it's very clear that people highly value like the like effect monsters that you can send instead of like a big boss monster that just has like a big bungus negate and a whole bunch of stupid effects on it.
Yeah, the the Fusion Destiny adds like consistency to your deck and also gives you way more follow up than the Dragoon. The Dragoon's really strong going second though, because like you can just summon a Dragoon, pop 2 monsters, attack for game, which is kind of cool, but we don't really see that being done at all.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that was doing that, like before Burst of Destiny came out, was Drytron mainly. And it was part of their end board regardless, but like they were easily able to do that as well because it's like, oh, I interrupted their Drytron plays. Now they can't do anything. It's like, okay, link Mew Beta and link Karibo into this Verte. Now you're dead.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And
But it's like not done right now. So if they want to like, but if they hit the DPE stuff, then we just go right back to that.
yeah, it's interesting. I think in general Verte would probably be the best beneficial hit that they could do because like at that point if you play the DPE stuff, okay, now you have to play a 3-to-2 brick ratio two bricks and 3 cards that you actually want to see, and it's like
Hmm.
you have to hard open the fusion cards instead of the brick cards, and you get a powerful boss monster if you do, but you still have to hard open it. Versus, and then like with the dragoon, you can you can't use it with Verite anymore. So like combo decks probably aren't going to play that ever. And then like you go into like the decks that would probably use it would probably just be like something like quote unquote monkey decks where it's like, ooh, I set Guru, I summon Dragoon, I add Fiendus, I do all this. Or
Summon Dragoons, set Eldritch Traps, stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah. It's like the extremely slower decks would only be utilizing that if they would want to utilize it in the first place.
I agree. Yeah, that's it. The card with Verte gone, Dragoon does like nothing. Some decks might play it, most decks aren't. But then DPE, like people are still gonna play that engine, and it's still gonna be really strong because right now we play the 3-2 anyways. I just the Anaconda gives it the extra utility of being also used from the main deck or from the extra deck. So if they hit anything, that's probably what they should hit. If they don't hit anything, that's also still probably fine.
Yeah, in general, I think that's probably what they should do. But is there? I th- I know there's some other big things that I'm just not thinking about off the top of my head. I know a card that I specifically want to see go is Imperial Order. But is there anything, or what's your opinion on that specifically?
I'm impartial to the card because like it for the most part is an unsearchable one of that there is play arounds that you could do, and some decks get completely hosed by it. But I've flipped order against invoked and lost the duel before. Like it's not a literal be all end all. If you have full combo and also have it, yeah, it's gonna end the duel, but an anti spell probably would there too. And so I don't think it necessarily needs to go, and if it sticks around, I'm not going to be sad. But if it gets hit, I'm also not going to be sad at all. Like
Yeah,
I'm very impartial to the card.
yeah, that's fair. Like obviously I've used it before too. It just it's one of the few cards like personally to me where it's like it feels bad when it gets flipped on you, and it feels bad when you flip it on someone.
It only feels bad to me when I flip it because I know they're about to fucking bitch at me for it. Like if I could just know they would concede and not let it ruin their day, and then them try to ruin my day, I'd feel good. I put the card in my deck. Sometimes I draw it and it's dead. Sometimes I draw it and it wins me the game. I'd feel good that this was an instant that it won it for me. But nope, I'm gonna get shit on for it, and I'm gonna be like, you should have played around it. Should have drawn the cosmic. Should have chained it to it. I don't know.
Yeah, luckily I haven't had that kind of experience. It's been like big Sag moment where it's like, oh man, god damn it, kind of thing. But like not anything like too crazy like that. Luckily for me specifically, but um, my thoughts on that is in the previous episode, which anyone watching this should check out. But what I was gonna say before that? What are some other things that you think should be addressed if there is anything?
There's not much else I want hit, but I do want cool cards back. I don't care what, but give me something awesome back. Like my preference would be grass is greener, fairy tale snow, stuff that incentivizes 60 card play because I like the deck building aspect that goes into that. Like it's more challenging to build a 60 card deck, and a lot of players in the TCG specifically tend to think that 40 is the way to go and that less cards is better when in my opinion the reality of the situation is that 60 card decks tend to be perceived as more consistent, whereas 60 card decks are more powerful because you could play a lot more like searchable one ofs that aren't the best to draw, but having them in your deck makes your combo infinitely better. And I like those type of decks also having a strong payoff, be it grass or snow or something along those lines that'll just like give you more reason to do that because it forces players out of their comfort zone, makes us try new things and be a little innovative. And I love that about the grass format.
Yeah,
Nowadays, it's just like everyone puts the same draw cards in their deck and they're just like, oh, same combo every time, which no complaints, do it works for you. And like my 60 card decks, my objective is to do the same combo every time. But because they're 60, if my combo resolves and your combo resolves, mine's going to be better because I have like more access to more powerful cards. And if you give us more cards that are really strong, then we can play 60 good cards in a deck and it not be bad.
Yeah, that with 60 card decks specifically, like I've even played like modern 60 card decks that are not like combo decks even. Like I've shoved like I remember the craziest one I've done in the more modern sense is Eldritch Invoke, Dogmatica, Shadal, Dragoon. Like
I think
all
one of your 60 card Eldritch decks is on my channel, actually.
uh I don't
Or maybe it was up 50 or something, but you've
yeah,
definitely pushed boundaries before with a lot of different decks you make. That's one thing that I enjoy playing against you is that I never know what you're going to play because you constantly have some new innovative thing you're trying out. And I look up to stuff like that. I think it's the most fun way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And you learn a lot during those moments too. And your opponents are thrown off guard.
yeah, I appreciate that. But also just like in general with like 60 card decks like the thing that people like obviously people perceive it as more inconsistent because because of the simple math of it, it's just like theoretically you're not going to see these specific cards more often. But the thing like you were just mentioning is like if my all like the thing that I always saw with it is like if all 60 of my cards are insane good cards, then it doesn't matter.
If 60 out of 60 cards are good and if 40 out of 40 cards are good, you have the exact same odds of drawing 5 good cards, but your odds are lower of drawing multiples of the same good card.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I would, in terms of like stuff that should come back, the biggest thing I've heard specifically because I'm around Trenton all the time is harp horror. I think that would be I think that would be fine for the most part. I don't think Colossus can come back in any way, shape, or form, unfortunately.
That
But
card's so good. I've been playing it in this in Master Duel, and yeah, I probably don't think I'd advocate for it either.
yeah, that card's just absolutely crazy. But on the aspect of like good, innovative deck building, one card I think that was the stupidest hit that they could have done. It made sense at the time, I guess, but like one thing I definitely think that they should bring back now is Sekka's Light.
I like that card a lot. I would be fine with that coming back also. And they gave us so many new pop cards that you no longer can play in your deck if you play Sekka's Light, that it would just be another cool draw two alternative. I would be definitely down for that card.
Yeah, and like I think the biggest thing that detracted from them like wanting to keep it around was like we had Block Dragon, Destrudo, like all these insane like these Thunder Dragon combos and stuff and dangers at 3, that all this weird and crazy stuff that you could do with it, which was good, but it would probably to them it was also probably Colossus in some aspects as well, but like in general they were probably just like, yeah, this is getting a little bit too crazy, even though we took away literally 2/3 of the card pool from these people. So in general, that would be like my biggest thing. I want to see that card back mainly. Um, uh, what's your overall general thoughts on the most controversial card in all of Yu-Gi-Oh?
Mexi,
Yeah,
if it stays banned, I'm fine. If it comes to 1, fine. 2, I'm fine. 3, I'm fine. I've been liking playing around that card in Master Duels. It's fun. Again, it goes to the thing where people are attached to results, where if they lose to a Max C, they're going to hate the game. Instead of just like, have a fun time. Try to kill them if you're going second through the Max C. See what you can do. If you don't kill them, oh well, you're going to wake up the next morning and still be alive. Like, it doesn't matter that you lost to it. But we get so many cool... I kind of wanted at 1 the most, because everyone's like, it can't be 3 or 1.
oh
It's
wow,
Saki at 1. But if it goes to 1, there's a lot of cool innovations that happen in deck building where you start to see people playing decks that search the card and it becomes part of their end board and combo. Like if the second it goes to 1, I'm probably only gonna play Bugs or Phantom Knight, and that's like it. And reason being, Bug of course can search it because it's an insect. Like they have a plethora of ways to search it. But Phantom Knight can go summon Tour Guide, summon Sangan, make Cherubini, and have full combo plus Max C Search.
God, that's crazy. But if Maxi came back to three specifically, I was saying this earlier in one of my group chats. I was because we were talking about it. If it comes back to three, I'm playing like Flunder, True Draco, like Inspector Border Stun, like. I'm normal summoning all day. You're max. You have three dead cards against me. Good luck.
That's another really crazy thing that it adds to the format is like if we have Max C, there's more creative strategies that become more competitively viable because like all these top tier decks are going to be like a little afraid of playing or they're going to make less efficient boards because like they have to play into Max C if they want to go full combo and they don't want to play into Max C. So you can play derpy stuff like that and just like play stun and it becomes a lot stronger and you have an insane payoff card like Max C and like you said you're putting Garnets in their deck. And it just adds a lot to the format. I really like the card, to be honest.
Yeah,
And back when it was played, there was a while where people weren't maining three, which was wild to me.
yeah, it's that to me is like probably the craziest thing. Like looking, because there's like old like back when that card was like the like newer to the game, there was decks that were just like they either own like it was at three and it was like people had like two copies in the main deck only, like none in the side deck. Like it was only in the side deck. They didn't have it at all. It's like looking at that from a modern context. It's just like what the heck are you doing?
For real. They're back even in Dragon Ruler format. There were people that weren't maining and siding collectively the playsets of Droll and Max C. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Both of those cards like instantly shut down Ruler, and then one of those cards instantly shut down Spellbook, and you're not playing it. They
yeah.
weren't playing Emptiness. It's like I think everyone that played Yu-Gi-Oh was just like on crack or something. They weren't thinking straight.
Yeah, the only people that were not the only people that weren't like using like drugs or anything was like OCG players and like the few like extremely extremely insane competitive players
Yeah, it was OCG and Hoban. They were the only sane ones.
and Jesse Cotton probably. I don't know how long he's been playing.
I don't know. I his name wasn't relevant at least I don't think up until more recently. Not too recently. Like he's been relevant for a while now, but I don't know how long that's been.
Yeah, he's one of the few competitive players that I like give a lot of credence to because he's like it was like you were saying like with me with like my deck building like just in general he has like so many like crazy sometimes not as crazy but like some like interesting and like understandable like theory crafting and just like insane like knowledge on some specific things like he's played like different numbers of deck counts and it's just and his whole reasoning for it when someone asks him he's just like this is just the most consistent way that this deck can be played. It's like I don't know what else to tell you, kind of thing.
He's the Hoban of our generation. I hold a lot of credit to Hoban. He's my favorite player that I've ever studied. And when I was first getting into like competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, he was writing articles for ARG at the time. I would be in class and I forget what the class was, but I had a computer in front of me. It's like 10th grade, I think, and I completely blew off the entire class, cheated off the people next to me so that I could invest all my time just reading the archive of Hoban articles. And it actually like accelerated my like skill a lot. My first top eight, I net decked his him and Ben Leverett like play tested together a lot. It was a little protege. And
Mm-hmm.
I net decked the concept for Leverett's deck that he topped a regional Saturday night, and I played it at the regional Sunday morning. It was the only one in the room with those cards in my deck, and I waxed kids. They were the first ones to play Armageddon Knight as a Rota target to send the Jin to do the Jin lock going first, or to send Farfa or Shadal Dragon to pop back row or pop their Dijin lock going second.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool to hear.
It was
Yeah,
insane.
yeah. I mean, I've told you I can't really give Hoban some credit in terms of ethics, but I will always give it to him in terms of like gameplay and skill cap in the game.
Dude's crazy.
Yeah, in general. Um, but I'm trying to think. There was those are the big those are the big things people are talking about coming back. What's like a random what is there like a random crazy card that maybe you think is like 50-50 come back? Like if it came back, it's probably a little stinky, but like I want to see it come back, kind of thing.
I would like to see a lot of cards, honestly. One of them off the top of my head, Electromite would be cool. Nightmare Goblin is another one. I like those cards a lot.
Electromite's kind of weird because they're I don't know if you've been keeping up with like some of the newer releases. There's like it's like quote unquote like better slash worse Electromite because it's like it adds it to your hand, but it like restricts what you can pendulum summon to its zones. I forget exactly what it does, but it's kind of insane for what it is. But like I feel like if they brought back I feel like that's just kind of like their admission of like, okay, we're not bringing this card back, but here's something to like tide you over, kind of thing.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a replacement coming out, so they probably won't bring it back then. But now I'm kind of excited to see what that card does. After we're done, send me a link to it. I'll check that card out.
Yeah, I will. I don't know how impactful it will be, but definitely be, it'll definitely like help Pendulum out a lot because it helps them have like a better, it basically like fulfills what Electromite does, but in just kind of like a weirder way. You probably have to build around it more specifically, but um, who knows? I think if my mention in the last video of like a chaotic card was reasoning, and like I don't I thinking about it like since then I feel like it might be a little too much right now,
Could it go
but
to two?
hmm,
Could it go to two?
maybe to try it out probably, yeah.
I'd be fine with that card at two, honestly. I think it would be really fun. I could play it in some cool decks, and I also don't think it's like that OP. They're the decks that it's the best in oftentimes play cards that are like dead
Sub
draws, and
Yeah,
so it kind of
subpar,
evens out.
yeah, like subpar cards
Although,
and stuff.
like I think you actually commented on the list I put in my community tab today. The Eldritch list that was playing three of it. That seems really cool.
Yeah, it'd be kind of funny if like if like one of the Eldritch cards was like all three of the Eldritch cards like smushed to the bottom of the deck though, and then
Yeah,
just
you just deck out and lose.
yeah. Well, you literally have like no resources left. It's like here's my 2,500 bungus, but
I
like
saw a 60 card prank kid deck online on DB Grinder's channel that played the one of reasoning. If that card went to two or three prank kid decks could utilize it because it's like a 25% chance you hit a starter.
oh yeah,
Or
yeah,
it's a 75% if they call one of the levels one through four, and if they call five or higher, you guarantee a starter.
yeah. I think what is it? It's they typically call four with that kind of stuff, but regardless of all that, there's like a whole bunch of stuff just ban list wise that they could just like completely like not like ruin the format, but just like take stuff off and just like clean up clutter from the ban list. Like
Yeah, there's a lot of cards at 0 and 1 that could easily at least move up one and try. Like, I think the dangers are one of them. Like Tsuchinoko and Jackalope aren't really doing much right now at one. Maybe give us one of them to two. You gave us Nessie to two and it did nothing. So maybe move that to three and let some of these strategies exist as like Sword Soul's out right now. And Sword Soul's a really strong deck. And these cards are cards that deck can't really utilize. And
yeah,
some of the other meta decks can't really like Bird Up is still really strong. It's not going to play the dangers. So they're just going to really be like little power ups to other random decks that maybe can use them, and chances are they still won't really see play. They're kind of outshadowed by what we currently have because like the card game, these cards got hit, but the card game didn't stop. We kept getting more powerful cards.
yeah. That's those cards the dangers specifically are kind of weird because they're basically like upstarts on legs. But like I think in general, I think if they were all at two currently, it would probably be okay. but we would probably have to they would probably have to like shift them around and like test around with that or
Put Jackal to 2, and then next list give us like Tsuchinoko to 2. And if they're still irrelevant, then maybe put Nessie to 3 and just slowly go from there. That's kind of what I'm hoping they'll do because that's what they've been doing so far with Nessie.
yeah.
And I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see eventually, but just in general, there's just also just so many like random obscure banned cards that they have like that are banned that just shouldn't be there anymore. Yatagarasu, for example, is not a threat anymore. Like stuff like that just just kind of doesn't matter. I personally think all the banned burn cards that they have should stay because I don't want to deal with any like FTK, even if it's like completely irrelevant. I just don't want to deal with that kind of stuff at all. But
Yeah, me neither, really. I want to play it. I don't want to play against it.
yeah, that kind of yeah, we
We can start getting the rulers back too. The rulers are kind of overdue to start coming off.
yeah, I think what's the one that people said was like the second like I think it's Blaster, right? The sec like he's the
I think I kind of want Redox back. I would like that a lot.
yeah, I would prefer like Redox or Tempest
Uh,
honestly.
or
But
Title's the one that I want the most because
Title,
I
yeah,
like
sorry.
Mermail a lot.
Yeah, I meant Title. Sorry, I forgot we already had Tempest
You,
back. That's the craziest thing. Like I remember like the day after like Tempest came out, there was a like some kind of Dragon Link like FTK or like insane combo with it, and then like moving forward, everyone's just like, yeah, I don't play Tempest.
I have a list that I was messing with on DB that played it, but the card's just not that great anymore. It's just like an extender. And it's an extender, it's a +1 as the game progresses. Like every turn you get, the card is another +1. But Yu-Gi-Oh games end kind of quick. Like at best, you're going to get 2 to 3 summons off of it most of the time. And that's just not doing that much.
And I'm kind of glad that you mentioned them because like that reminds me of like how interestingly like they're not like insanely fair. Obviously they had their own format like where they were just extremely oppressive and everything, but like in current day and age when you look at their card text, like they're extremely fair in comparison to some stuff. Like you look at them, they're all hard once per turns. You can only use one of their effects, and like they all have three effects, obviously. But like the fact that you can only do one of them per turn, you can't like use like all three of Tempest's effects, like search, discard, search, and like summon it back like all in one turn. Like I mean, in current day and age, like it feels like in some ways that they would just kind of be like kind of bad.
Yeah, they just kind of are. If you make like a max or a full power ruler deck and play it against the full power decks of nowadays, ruler's like really garbage in that aspect. If you gave us all of the rulers at once to one each, then there's a chance that we find with the new cards that we have new innovative strategies to utilize them. But for the most part, I think if you like wean them off one at a time, see how they do, it's safe. The cards I don't think are going to be that impactful.
Yeah, I think they have like this it's that weird like mystique of like some specific Yu-Gi-Oh cards that some players just like they look at them and they're just like no, these cards are way too good for the game. They're way too insane. There's so many different things that you can do with them. I can't think of an example off the top of my head like instantly that came back like went on the ban list and came back that was just like completely like that became a complete dud. But like I know it's happened before, and like people. I feel like with those specifically, they kind of overestimate the ability of them, at least in current day and age.
I agree. I agree.
Um, but yeah, I think in general, I think we've kind of exhausted that ban list discussion here. Just a couple other things here, and we'll wrap up for everything.
All right, I've really got to pee, so the quicker we can get to the wrap up now, the better. I'm having a good time, but I really got to urinate.
Do you? Uh, I can pause the recording if you want, and then like we can just get
I
back
can
into it.
power through. We're good.
Okay. No, now I gotta edit something out. How could you?
Nope, don't edit. Guys, this isn't edited out. We're still here.
uh, um. So, if so, one of the last few questions I wanted to ask before we get into the final thing. Um. So if you had a new player or a person come up to you, say, Zade, I want to get into Yu-Gi-Oh. I want to do something with it. Um, and that's all they really specify about. They just say, I want to get into Yu-Gi-Oh. How do I start? What would your advice be for them?
Subscribe to Zade Slater on YouTube, and he'll teach you everything. But I actually have a problem teaching new players like how to play, but I guess I just kind of recommend them come to locals and check it out. Like, and if they came up to me at locals, then I'd have to pry a little more. Like, what decks do you enjoy watching? Was there anything that piqued your interest? And if they're just asking me for advice on a deck, I would probably recommend something cheap and timeless that also like can be upgraded as your budget goes. Examples I think of are like Burning Abyss off the top of my head. You can literally make a competitively viable Burning Abyss deck for like $20. You just have to like think about what the cheapest best staples are that you can get and then get them and work up from there. There's also like Striker's a good one where the engine is beans, and then the hand traps and stuff that you play are what makes the deck more expensive. But you could start off small and play not that good of hand traps, or maybe play a trap variant, or like whatever you have to do to make your deck 40 cards. And then as your budget gets bigger, you can get hand traps, which will make that deck better, but will also expand the horizons of the decks that are playable for you in the future because you've like got a lot more staples readily available. So I think that's probably the route I'd go. Then, or I'd find them a cheap, big combo deck because combo decks are fun.
Yeah, combo decks can be pretty fun sometimes. And then last little thing here, what is like one thing or something just in general that you would give to players as advice, just like whether it be like about like within the card game, about like about locals, regionals, whatever it might be, like one specific thing that you would say carries through to.
Uh, the thing that we talked about earlier, honestly, like any game you're playing, any given moment that you're playing the game, don't worry about what happened or what's going to happen. Worry about the moment. What is the best thing I can do right now in this moment to make my chances of winning better? And every play you make, just what's the best play now? Now I made this wrong play. Doesn't matter. What's the best play I can do now? I popped this back row. Now what can I do in this moment that is going to get me closer to the win? And that mindset literally can help you in real life, like not just in Yu-Gi-Oh. Just like you wake up in the morning, you look around at your environment. What can I do right now to make the place I live a better place? Make your bed, clean up the laundry on the floor. Like it's applicable anywhere. And that I think that's the advice I would give. What can you do right now to make your chances of the outcome you want coming to life happen?
All right, sounds like a great send off for everything. I thank you for joining me here today, and we can get some. Hopefully, I can get some newer people coming in from your channel, but also just newer people in general coming in
And
to.
thank you for having me. I had a good time, and I'm gonna post in my community tab about it. The next couple videos I record, I'll mention it. I want to see you flourish. I want to see our whole community just like growing together. It's a beautiful thing. Everyone getting into YouTube, and we all can help each other, and our network just gets stronger as it goes.
Exactly. Eventually, mark my words, Zade Slater will be richer than Elon Musk at one point in time.
Elon Musk is gonna ask me for loans.
He's also going to ask you for deck profiles. uh, but that's it for this episode. I hope everyone that listened to this enjoyed, no matter where you're coming from. Have a good day, evening, whatever it is, and I will talk to you all in the next video. Thank you.